We are now going on 6 years into this console generation, and every time I look back at it, everything that's transpired, I feel torn. I've regretted buying my PlayStation 5, and then I've been glad that I bought my PlayStation 5. But as time goes on, I find the regret outweighs the joy. Thanks to Jim Ryan and Herman Holst's aggressive push for live service, we have seen a noticeable decline in PlayStation's first-party output. Cancellations like The Last of Us Online, the shutdown of studios like Japan Studio, and morale across PlayStation first-party teams hitting all-time lows, it's not the PlayStation we grew up with. Sure, we've had good games, but almost all of them are remakes, remasters, or sequels. Gone are the days of bold new IPs that defined the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 era under leaders like Shawn Layden and Shuhei Yoshida. That was kind of a golden time for PlayStation. Sony's desperate scramble after falling behind the Xbox 360 and Wii gave us some of the most creative years in their history. Greatness awaits wasn't just a slogan, it was a mission. But with Jim Ryan at the helm, that mission was scrapped. His infamous quote, "Gamers don't care about old games," told us everything we needed to know. This is a story on how two European executives failed in their great expedition to conquer gaming and crippled a juggernaut for a whole generation. This is why the PlayStation 5 was a lost generation. To see just how mismanaged this generation was, you only have to look at the PlayStation 5 itself. Open it up and the design screams control. The disc drive, clearly an afterthought. Unlike the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, which were built around physical media, this console was designed for a digital-first future, likely all digital, fully DRM locked, and completely controlled by Sony. The PlayStation 5 UI is tailored around the PlayStation Store. No themes, no media purchasing, no simple content access, everything is a funnel pushing you towards spending money, and especially renting games through PlayStation Plus. This was a live service box disguised as a console. At launch, PlayStation had 21 live service titles in development. Today, most are cancelled, shut down, or have taken their studios with them. This all started with Fortnite and Destiny. The live service boom made Sony envious. They bought Bungie for $3 billion, hoping lightning would strike twice. Instead, they got Marathon, a game surrounded by controversy, morale issues, accusation of asset debt, and Bungie might not even survive this launch. The game has now been delayed indefinitely. Sony didn't understand the core appeal of live service. Fortnite thrived because of fast progression, fun gameplay loops, and constant variety. Helldivers 2 exploded on launch day thanks to streamers, but fizzled fast. The grindy progression killed momentum. Gran Turismo 7 had the same issue early on before backlash forced changes. PlayStation's live service effort feels like an endless beta. No strong loops, no real retention, and no understanding of the psychology behind a video game player. Even Marathon, with its struggled beta and lack of game modes, was built around a loop that isn't available. There is nothing about Marathon that can make it sustainable as a live service. PlayStation's lack of understanding of the gameplay loop is what's killing their live service efforts. They could have easily made a bunch of high-profile live service games that everybody would have loved. However, they didn't, because they don't understand the loop, and therefore each game they launch, with the exception of Gran Turismo and Helldivers 2, is just unsustainable, and there's no real reason for the player to say, hey, I'm going to play just one more, and then one more turns into two more, and then the next thing you know, the sun's up and you've missed work. And then there's PlayStation's first-party story-based lineup, which is not out of my crosshairs either. Yes, we got God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2, which in their own was a great game, but they did not live up to the greatness that was their predecessors. Spider-Man 2 failed to reach the heights of Spider-Man 1. God of War Ragnarok was not as good as God of War 2018. It wasn't as good as the ones on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, or PSP. It was just a game. And then there's the case of Horizon Forbidden West, which really just polarized the entire audience. It failed to live up to what Horizon Zero Dawn was. And now that studio has been punished into making not only a VR game, but a live service game as well for the Horizon series. Spider-Man 2 felt half finished, and that's because it was. A planned multiplayer mode inspired by Into the Spider-Verse was scrapped. The 2023 Insomniac breach confirmed that. Naughty Dog missing in action. They wasted years on The Last of Us Online before canceling it, and now their next game, Intergalactic, might not launch until the PlayStation 6 era. An entire generation lost from PlayStation's most grandiose studio. And yet the few first-party games that did shine, Returnal, Astrobot, and Stellar Blade, were also their most divisive. Returnal was called too punishing. Stellar Blade was attacked for being too sexual. And yet these were the most PlayStation games this gen, with Stellar Blade, as of right now, becoming PlayStation's biggest PC launch of all time. Why did it take until now to get an actual full-fledged Astrobot game? Under Shawn Layden, we had Crash, Spyro, Shadow of the Colossus, and Medieval. Remakes, nostalgia, fan service, you name it, Shawn gave it to us. Jim Ryan and Herman Holse, they only saw dollar signs and wasted billions chasing trends instead of building identity. I've name-dropped him a few times, but Jim Ryan was not alone in sinking this ship. Herman Holse played a really big part. After the departure of Jim Ryan, Herman Holse was made PlayStation's CEO, and he felt determined to continue Jim's mission. After demoing Concord at Firewalk Studios, he pushed Sony to buy them, and spent an estimated $400 million developing the game on top of a $230 million acquisition. The game flopped. Less than 340 hours after launch, the studio was shut down, hundreds laid off, developers, writers, artists, even janitors, all collateral damage in Sony's desperate search for their own Fortnite. This wasn't a misstep, it was a disaster, and Marathon is following the same path. And Gran Turismo 7 shows the irony. It nailed the live service formula, weekly events, solid engagement, but there's no pressure to send money, so Sony doesn't replicate it. They want live service profits without doing the actual work. And look, I get it, COVID changed everything. Missed deadlines, work from home complicated things, staff left for different industries, I completely understand. But Sony's failures were not just a cause of the pandemic. They were the result of hubris, poor leadership, and bad judgment. And this isn't just a PlayStation problem. Every studio this generation has a lack of veterans in the industry. It's being ran by burnout survivors of the past and propped up by young grads who don't realize they're being taken advantage of. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, to be fair, both feel like lost generations. We're 5 years in and it still feels like the gen hasn't started. We are even beginning to get talks from Sony about the PlayStation 6, and I see no reason to buy that at launch, if at all. My PlayStation 5 Pro still works and has plenty of power. There's no urgency to upgrade. And as someone who's defended PlayStation since the PlayStation 2, fought in the great console wars of 2005 to 2013, and stuck with Sony through thick and thin, these last 7 years broke me. I've bought more PlayStation 2 games in 2025 than PlayStation 5 ones. I've played more PlayStation 2 than PlayStation 5 since 2021. I want PlayStation to be what it once was, but I fear we're at the end of that road. If this trend continues, PlayStation will become the iPhone of gaming, the default, safe, bland choice, no longer where greatness awaits, just where business happens. Do you agree that the PlayStation 5 is a lost generation? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new and you enjoy this type of video, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can see the next one. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. I've been Cruzjandro, try not to die, and I'll see you in the next video.